My name is Serafina Ashford. I'm 32 years old, and I call Minneapolis home. There's a particular quietness that will forever haunt me, the stillness that filled that chapel. What should have marked the most joyful moment of my existence became a nightmare as I fixated on that vacant wooden seat positioned in the first row. My father's absence screamed louder than any words could. 10 minutes prior to the ceremony's start, my phone vibrated in my trembling palm. I recall gazing at the illuminated screen, my ivory gown quivering around my frame. A message from him appeared. No declarations of affection, no expressions of regret. Simply stated, unable to attend, critical business matter. I forced myself to choke back the emotion, raise my head high, and proceed down that path without anyone beside me. That particular day shattered any illusion that I held value in his eyes. My existence meant nothing unless I served a purpose. Yet today marked a transformation. My image dominates the headlines. My hospitality empire just reached an estimated worth of $580 million. And remarkably, after years of radio silence, my device buzzed displaying his contact information. Family gathering 7 o'clock this evening. Your presence is required. He assumes he can command my attendance now that wealth defines me. He believes I remain that desperate young woman craving his validation. How mistaken he is. He's about to encounter the person his neglect created when that chair sat empty. Before I reveal how the tables turned, engage with this content and leave your thoughts. What corner of the world are you viewing from? My name is Serafina Ashford. I'm 32 years old. My childhood unfolded in a residence perpetually devoid of warmth, regardless of the season. We resided in Minneapolis, a metropolis recognized for its harsh winters, yet the frigidity within our dwelling transcended weather patterns. This coldness emerged from prolonged silences. It manifested as the understanding that your physical presence registered, but your personhood remained unacknowledged. My father, Theodore Ashford, commanded attention wherever he positioned himself. Volume characterized his telephone conversations. Boisterous amusement accompanied interactions with his colleagues, and authority colored his instructions to employees. Yet when his gaze fell upon me, something vacant replaced recognition, as though I represented furniture he'd acquired and subsequently forgotten. My mother, Marguerite, existed as his extension. Her entire existence revolved around managing the atmosphere surrounding him, ensuring nothing disturbed his equilibrium. Anxiety defined her character, hands constantly fidgeting, eyes perpetually monitoring the entrance, anticipating his arrival. Perhaps affection existed in her heart for me, though her devotion to him eclipsed everything else. Or perhaps intimidation drove her behavior more accurately. Then there was Garrett, my senior sibling. If my existence resembled furniture, Garrett embodied the chosen heir. Our entire household orbited his trajectory. If Garrett participated in athletic competitions, complete family attendance followed. Father would depart his office prematurely. Mother would prepare provisions. Should Garrett receive substandard academic marks, professional tutoring appeared immediately, and father would dedicate hours alongside him, providing encouragement, proclaiming his inevitable success. When perfect grades marked my achievements, father would merely acknowledge with a slight nod while continuing to read his publication. A particular Tuesday when I reached 12 years remains seared into my consciousness, because that day extinguished my pursuit of acknowledgement, replacing hope with acceptance of invisibility. I had registered for a regional scientific competition. 3 months of dedication went into constructing an intricate, sustainable water purification apparatus. Every evening in the workshop space, wearing father's oversized garment, I labored. Pride filled me. First position at my educational institution led to state-level qualification. The state finals occurred on that specific Tuesday evening. 2 weeks in advance, I requested father's attendance. "I'll review my commitments." "Serafina," he stated, attention fixed on his computer screen. 7 days prior, I reminded him. "I'll make an attempt, Serafina. Stop badgering me. Professional obligations are demanding currently." On the competition morning, I stood in the kitchen, my stomach twisted with apprehension. Garrett consumed breakfast. voicing complaints regarding his athletic training. "Father?" I ventured, my tone barely audible. "The competition begins at 6 this evening. Awards presentation occurs at 7. Father sipped his beverage. He consulted his timepiece. "I have scheduled discussions with international investors." "Serafina, you understand this represents significant business matters, but you indicated you'd try," I whispered. "Attempting doesn't constitute a guarantee," he responded sharply. "Don't display dramatics. Your mother will represent our family." I looked toward Mother. Her expression conveyed apologetic sadness. "I cannot, sweetheart. Garrett requires transportation to his distant competition in Duluth, and your father needs our other vehicle." I remained there, gripping my bag's strap until my knuckles blanched. "So nobody's coming." "It's merely a science competition, Sarah," Garrett mumbled through his breakfast, "not comparable to championship events." I attended alone. I assembled my display unaccompanied. When evaluators approached, I articulated my purification system's mechanisms with clarity and confidence, despite my fractured heart. I observed other participants celebrating with their fathers. I watched maternal figures embracing their daughters. I positioned myself near my exhibit, maintaining a fabricated smile, pretending indifference didn't wound me. Second position statewide became mine. They announced my name from the prominent platform, Serafina Ashford. I ascended those stairs. The illumination felt intense and suffocating. I searched the darkened audience space, seeking any recognizable presence. Perhaps Father had concluded his business engagement early. Perhaps Mother had completed Garrett's transportation and returned. Yet only unfamiliar faces populated the seating. I accepted the recognition. I exchanged pleasantries with the judge and departed the stage. Upon my late evening return, darkness consumed our residence. Everyone slept. I positioned the crimson ribbon beside the beverage preparation area, where Father would encounter it come morning. The following morning, the ribbon had vanished. Mother had tidied. Nobody mentioned anything. Nobody inquired about the outcome. At breakfast, Father discussed Garrett's athletic performance. "He nearly achieved a goal in the latter portion," Father proclaimed, radiating pride, patting Garrett's shoulder. "That's my son. You possess the determination, boy. You've got that competitive fire." I sat consuming my toast, experiencing complete invisibility. That particular day taught me the fundamental principle governing the Ashford household. Affection functioned as currency, and my account remained perpetually empty. My subsequent teenage years involved desperate attempts to accumulate that currency. I convinced myself that perfection, compliance, and accomplishment would finally render me visible. Graduation with highest honors followed. Acceptance to a prestigious business institution arrived. I mastered musical instruments. I maintained physical fitness and appropriate presentation. Yet nothing altered my status. I remained merely Serafina, the supplementary child, the contingency. I recall questioning Mother during my 20th year regarding Father's harsh treatment, his apparent disinterest. Mother exhaled, observing the precipitation through the window. "He recognizes himself in Garrett, Serafina. He envisions his continuation through your brother. Regarding you, uncertainty governs his interactions. He's a commerce professional. He comprehends quantifiable worth. He simply doesn't perceive, well, he's experiencing tremendous pressure. He doesn't perceive my value," I stated. "He cares for you in his particular manner," she responded. That phrase became her constant refrain, "in his particular manner." Yet affection shouldn't require decoding. It shouldn't constitute hidden communication. Affection should manifest obviously. It should exist during triumphs and persist through defeats. I understood then that I awaited transportation at the wrong terminal. I anticipated something that would never materialize. Yet foolishly, portions of me maintained hope. I maintained that hope until my wedding day. That day severed the final thread. I encountered Julian when I reached 24. He embodied everything my family wasn't. Warmth characterized him. He absorbed my words when I spoke, and material possessions or social standing held no significance. He designed landscapes, creating gardens, recreational spaces, and tranquil environments. He loved me simply and demonstratively. When our engagement happened, hope flickered briefly. A wedding constitutes a significant family occasion. It's customary. My father valued tradition. He valued appearances. Surely for his sole daughter's marriage ceremony, he would participate meaningfully. I dedicated 12 months to wedding preparations. I desired perfection, not solely for myself, but to provide them something they'd value. I wanted to grant my father a role that would generate his pride. I visited his office to pose the question. I scheduled an appointment through his administrative assistant, the sole method ensuring 5 minutes of his availability. I entered his expansive corner office. He engaged in telephone conversation as typical. He gestured toward seating and continued conversing for 10 minutes while I sat adjusting my attire. Finally, he disconnected. "What do you need, Serafina?" "I have a luncheon engagement in 20 minutes. I wanted to request something, Father," I stated regarding the wedding. "What's the financial requirement?" he inquired immediately, reaching for his payment book. "I communicated to your mother to manage the expenditure." "It's not regarding finances," I said. "I want you to escort me down the aisle. I want you to present me at the ceremony." He paused. He looked at me, and momentarily I detected something tender in his expression. Perhaps nostalgia, perhaps guilt. "Naturally," he said. "It's paternal obligation. I'll attend." "Promise?" I asked. "No business engagements, no professional travel." "I promise, Serafina. I'll attend." I clutched that promise desperately. Months elapsed. The planning generated stress. Mother criticized my floral selections. Garrett mocked Julian's profession, labeling him a groundskeeper. Yet, I disregarded everything. Father would escort me down the aisle. It would constitute the moment where genuine connection finally occurred. The rehearsal gathering occurred the evening preceding the ceremony. We secured a private space at an upscale seafood establishment. Julian's parents attended, displaying warmth and smiles. My mother attended looking tense. Garrett attended, constantly checking his device every few seconds. Yet Father's seat remained vacant. "Where is he?" I questioned Mother. "He encountered complications," she whispered. "A crisis at the office. He indicated he'll attempt arriving for dessert. He never appeared." I retired that evening in the hotel accommodation feeling ill. Julian embraced me. "He'll attend tomorrow, Sarah." He gave his word. "I know," I said. "He must attend." The wedding morning arrived beautifully. The atmosphere felt crisp, the heavens clear azure. I dedicated hours to preparation. My hair received elaborate styling. My cosmetics appeared flawless. I donned the ivory gown. I observed my reflection and felt beautiful. I felt like a bride. We positioned ourselves at the chapel. The ceremony scheduled for 2:00 in the afternoon. At 1:30, I occupied the bridal chamber. The photographer captured images. My attendants laughed, consuming sparkling wine. "Has anyone observed my father?" I inquired. "He's probably positioned in the entrance area," one responded. At 1:45, I began pacing. My hands trembled. I requested my mother to investigate. She returned 5 minutes later, her complexion pale. "Is he present?" I asked. He's not responding to his device," she stated, her voice quivering. "Traffic congestion is severe, Serafina. You understand how traffic becomes. He's not present." "He'll arrive," she insisted. "He wouldn't miss this occasion." At 1:50, my device vibrated. It rested on the vanity surface. I stared at it. I knew instinctively in my core. I knew. I retrieved it. A text message from Father. I opened it. Unable to attend. Critical meeting materialized. Opportunity of a lifetime. Apologies. Transmit photographs. I fixated on those words. Opportunity of a lifetime. My wedding didn't constitute the opportunity of a lifetime. I didn't constitute the opportunity of a lifetime. I represented an appointment subject to cancellation. The chamber fell silent. The attendants ceased laughing. My mother observed me, recognized the device, and dissolved into tears. "Oh, Serafina. Oh, sweetheart. He experiences such tremendous pressure. Stop, I stated. My voice emerged eerily calm. Stop generating excuses for him. We can postpone, Mother said. We can delay the ceremony. No, I stated. We're not postponing. But who will escort you? She inquired. Garrett can perform the duty. Garrett, come here. No, I stated again with increased volume. I don't want Garrett. I don't want anyone. I stood upright. I verified my cosmetics. I didn't weep. The tears existed, burning behind my eyes, yet I refused their release. If tears started now, they would never cease. I needed strength. I needed to become stone. I departed the chamber. I proceeded to the chapel's rear. The doors remained closed. I could perceive the organ music performing. The guests anticipated. Julian anticipated. The coordinator appeared confused. Where is your father? He's not attending, I stated. Open the doors. Are you certain you want to proceed alone? Open the doors. The substantial wooden doors separated. The music intensified to the matrimonial processional. Everyone rose and pivoted. I witnessed the multitude of faces. I witnessed Julian positioned at the altar, appearing handsome and concerned. And then I witnessed the vacant position in the foremost row adjacent to my mother, the empty seat. It felt like physical impact to my chest. Everyone observed me, then observed the empty space beside me. I could perceive the murmurs, the bewilderment, the sympathy. Poor Serafina. Her father didn't attend. I inhaled deeply. I gripped my floral arrangement so intensely the stem fractured, and I commenced walking. One step followed by another. I traversed that extensive aisle unaccompanied. I maintained my head elevated. I didn't look at my mother who sobbed into fabric. I didn't look at Garrett who appeared disinterested. I kept my vision secured on Julian. He represented the sole authentic element in that chamber. When I reached the altar, Julian advanced. He didn't await the officiant. He descended, grasped my hand, and whispered, I've got you. You're not alone. I looked at him, and a solitary tear escaped. I know, I whispered. We married. I spoke my commitments. I smiled for photographs. Yet internally something expired. The young woman who desired her daddy's approval perished. She expired on that aisle. In her position, a woman emerged. A woman who understood that if she desired anything in existence, affection, accomplishment, tranquility, she would need to construct it independently. I didn't communicate with my father for 12 months following that day. He transmitted a kitchen appliance as a gift 3 weeks later. No correspondence, merely a kitchen appliance. I returned it. Following the wedding, I transformed. I ceased calling home. I ceased visiting. I understood that attempting to extract blood from stone merely left me depleted and wounded. I needed to concentrate on something different. I needed to prove to myself that I wasn't without value. Julian and I relocated to Vermont. We desired a fresh beginning away from the precipitation-filled shadows of Minneapolis and the toxicity of my family. I possessed a modest inheritance from my grandmother. Not substantial, but sufficient for a down payment. I discovered a property available on the coastline. It was an aged, deteriorated fishing establishment called Cedar Haven. It was disastrous. The roof leaked, the flooring was decomposing, and it emanated odors of mildew and aged tobacco. Are you certain regarding this? Julian inquired, observing the peeling paint. I can envision it, I stated, looking beyond the deterioration. I can envision what it could become. I acquired it, and then I commenced work. I didn't employ a substantial construction team. I couldn't afford one. It was merely me, Julian, and 2 local individuals we hired. For 2 years, I didn't take a single day off. I woke at 4 o'clock every single morning. I donned work boots and coveralls. I learned to sand flooring. I learned to repair plumbing. I painted every single wall personally. My hands, which used to receive manicures, became rough and calloused. My back ached constantly, yet I loved it. Every nail I hammered felt like I was hammering away my past. Every wall I painted felt like I was covering up the memories of that empty chair. We renamed it Horizon Suites. We opened with merely 10 rooms. I operated the front desk, I cleaned the facilities. I prepared breakfast in the kitchen. Julian managed the landscaping, transforming the overgrown vegetation into a magical forest garden. The initial month, we accommodated 3 guests. I treated them like royalty. I ensured their beverage was perfect. I left handwritten notes on their pillows. I wanted them to experience the warmth I never possessed. Word circulated. People began composing reviews. The most welcoming place on the coast. A hidden treasure. The proprietor makes you feel like family. Family. That word used to wound me. Now it constituted my business model. By the conclusion of the initial year, we were completely reserved for 6 months in advance. We generated profit. I took that profit and acquired the deteriorated motel adjacent. We renovated that as well. Then we acquired a historic inn in Boston. Then a boutique hotel in Sonoma. I became obsessed. I wasn't merely constructing hotels. I was constructing an empire. I studied the market. I learned regarding real estate, finance, and hospitality. I became a predator, yet a predator with grace. I negotiated deals that made seasoned businessmen perspire, yet I accomplished it with politeness and elegance. 5 years elapsed. Horizon Suites expanded to 11 properties across the western coast. We were recognized for luxury, intimacy, and incredible service. During those 5 years, my interaction with my family remained minimal. I transmitted cards for birthdays. They transmitted generic text messages. Happy birthday. Hope you're well. They didn't know regarding the hotels. Well, they knew I was operating a small bed and breakfast, as Garrett described it. They didn't know I was the CEO of a corporation. They didn't inquire, and I didn't inform. Why would I? They weren't interested in Serafina the builder. They were solely interested in themselves. I heard fragments of information through gossip channels. Father's business was struggling. The market was transforming and he was too stubborn to adapt. Garrett had initiated 3 different companies, and all of them had collapsed. Father had berated him every time. It didn't surprise me. Garrett had never learned to work. He had solely learned to receive praise. I, conversely, had learned to survive. I recall one evening sitting in my office at our flagship hotel in Minneapolis. Yes, I had returned to the city, but on my own terms. I looked out the window at the skyline. I was 30 years old. I was wealthy. I was happily married. And I had accomplished it all without requesting my father for a single cent. I looked at the phone. I hadn't spoken to him in 6 months. "Do you miss them?" Julian inquired, entering and handing me a cup of tea. "I miss the concept of them," I stated honestly. "I miss the family I wished I possessed, but I don't miss the people they actually are." "You've won, you understand," Julian said. "It's not a competition," I said. Yet deep down, perhaps it was. Perhaps I was still that young woman at the science fair waiting to display them my recognition. Except the recognition was now a multi-million-dollar company. I just didn't know that the recognition was about to become significantly larger, and the silence was about to terminate. It was a Tuesday morning. It was raining, naturally. I was in the conference chamber with my executive team. We were reviewing the quarterly reports. The atmosphere felt electric. We had been laboring for months on a massive merger arrangement, bringing in private equity to expand Horizon Suites internationally. Kira, my CFO and closest friend, entered. She was holding a bottle of champagne and a stack of newspapers. Her face appeared flushed. "We accomplished it," she said. Her voice trembled. "Accomplished what?" I inquired, looking up from my laptop. She slammed the newspaper down on the table. The headline screamed in bold black letters. Horizon Suites valued at $580 million in historic deal. Underneath was a photograph of me, a photograph Julian had taken. I appeared strong, confident. $580 million, Kira stated. "Serafina, you are officially a half-billionaire." The chamber erupted. My team was cheering, applauding, opening the champagne. Julian ran in and lifted me off the ground, spinning me around. "I knew it," he yelled. "I knew you could accomplish it." I stood there experiencing a strange mixture of emotions. Pride? Yes. Relief? Absolutely. yet also a quiet, steady calm. I had accomplished it. The invisible daughter, the extra child, the woman who walked down the aisle alone. She had constructed a $500 million kingdom. I took a sip of champagne. My hands were steady. Then my phone vibrated on the table. It was a sharp, aggressive vibration against the mahogany wood. I looked down. Sender. Father. The chamber seemed to become quiet, even though everyone was still cheering. The name on the screen felt like a ghost. I hadn't heard from him since Christmas, which was a generic seasonal greeting text. I picked up the phone. My thumb hovered over the screen. What does he want? I thought. Does he know? Naturally, he knew. He read the business news religiously. He probably choked on his morning beverage when he witnessed my face on the front page. I opened the text. Serafina, family dinner at 7 o'clock this evening at the club. Important discussion. Do not be late. I stared at the words. No congratulations. No, I'm proud of you. No wow. Simply a summons. A command. Like I was an employee he was calling into his office. Who is it? Kira inquired, noticing my expression. My father, I said. Is he congratulating you? I laughed. It was a dry, humorless sound. No. He wants a meeting. Are you going? Julian inquired. He appeared concerned. He knew the pain they caused me. You don't have to go, Sarah. You don't owe them anything. I looked at the newspaper again. I looked at the valuation. $580 million. Then I thought regarding my father. I thought regarding the rumors I had heard that his company was experiencing trouble, that he was leveraging everything he owned. Suddenly the text made sense. He wasn't calling because he missed me. He wasn't calling because he was proud. He was calling because he was drowning. And he just realized that I was the sole lifeboat in sight. I'm going, I said to Julian. Why? Because, I said, picking up my purse. For 30 years I've been entering rooms wondering if I was adequate for them. Tonight, I'm going to enter that room knowing I own the table. I turned to Kira. Get me a complete financial report on Ashford Holdings. I want to know everything. Debts, loans, liens, lawsuits, everything. Have it on my desk in 60 minutes. Kira grinned. She knew exactly what I was thinking. You got it, boss. I walked to the window and looked out at the rain. The young woman who begged for attention was gone. The woman who was about to enter that dinner wasn't seeking affection. She was seeking closure. And if my father thought he could simply snap his fingers and access my wealth, he was in for the shock of his existence. The game had transformed. And for the first time, I was the one holding all the cards. I sat at my desk, the rain pounding against the glass of my office window. The metropolis of Minneapolis looked gray and blurred below me. Yet inside my office, everything was sharp and high definition, especially the stack of documents Kira had just positioned in front of me. It's worse than we thought, Serafina, Kira said. She wasn't smiling anymore. She appeared serious, almost frightened. It's a bloodbath. I opened the folder labeled Ashford Holdings Financial Audit. My father had always been mythology to me. Growing up, I thought he was invincible. He was the man who commanded rooms, who constructed skyscrapers, who made grown men tremble with a single phone call. I thought he was made of wealth. I thought his power was infinite. Yet looking at these papers, I realized the mythology was a lie. Walk me through it, I said, my finger tracing the red lines on the spreadsheet. Okay, Kira said, pulling up a chair. First, the liquidity. He has none. He's cash poor. He's been leveraging his existing properties to acquire new ones, yet the new ones aren't generating revenue. It's a house of cards. The loans have defaulted. Kira stated he has 3 major loans with Metropolitan Bank. He's missed payments on all of them for the last 4 months. The bank has already transmitted a notice of intent to foreclose. They're about to seize the headquarters. I felt a cold chill. The headquarters. That building was his pride and joy. It had his name in gold letters above the door. What regarding Garrett? I inquired. He's the vice president of operations. What has he been doing? Kira hesitated. She flipped to page 12. That's the worst part. Look at the payroll and expense accounts. I looked. My jaw tightened. Garrett was drawing a salary of $400,000 annually. Yet that wasn't the problem. The problem was the corporate credit card expenses. Private jet charter to Cancun, $22,000. Luxury suite in Miami, $15,000. New Ferrari lease company vehicle, $3,500 monthly. He's bleeding the company dry, I whispered. Father is drowning, and Garrett is drilling holes in the bottom of the vessel. And your father is permitting him, Kira added. There's no oversight, no discipline. Your father is covering for him, taking out high-interest short-term loans merely to keep payroll afloat. He's borrowing from predatory lenders, Serafina. Not literally, yet close enough. Private hard money lenders with predatory rates. I closed the folder. I felt sick. My father wasn't merely incompetent at business. He was delusional. He was sacrificing his entire existence's work to protect the ego of his son. He was willing to become bankrupt rather than admit that Garrett was a failure. And now he was calling me. I stood up and paced the chamber. He wants me to rescue him, I stated. Tonight, the dinner. He's going to request a loan. He probably thinks I'll write him a check for $10 million, $20 million merely to receive acknowledgement. If you give him wealth, Kira stated, it will be gone in 6 months. Garrett will spend it. Your father will mismanage it. It would be like throwing gold into flames. I know, I said. I walked to the window. I thought regarding the empty chair at my wedding. I thought regarding the science fair ribbon. I thought regarding the text message. Unable to attend. Critical meeting. He didn't respect me. He didn't love me. He merely perceived me as a resource. If I gave him the wealth, nothing would transform. He would accept it, perhaps say a quick thanks, and then return to ignoring me. Garrett would keep laughing at me while spending my wealth on sports cars. I'm not going to give him a loan, I said, turning back to Kira. So you're going to let him crash? Kira inquired. No, I said. My voice was deadly calm. I'm not going to let him crash. I'm going to catch him. Yet I'm not going to be his savior. I'm going to be his superior. Kira raised an eyebrow. What are you planning? Who holds the debt? I inquired. The substantial loans, the ones threatening foreclosure. Metropolitan Bank and a private equity firm called Titan Capital. Get them on the phone, I said. Right now. Serafina, it's 4:00. The banks are closing. I don't care, I said. Call the VP of Commercial Lending at Metropolitan Bank. Tell him Serafina Ashford of Horizon Suites wants to converse. Tell him I want to acquire the debt. Kira's eyes went wide. You want to acquire your father's debt? I want to acquire all of it, I said. Every mortgage, every lien, every overdue loan. I want to become the creditor. I don't want to give my father wealth. I want to own the paper his existence is printed on. That will cost a fortune, Kira said. You'd have to liquidate some assets. You'd have to access the merger capital. Do it, I said. We have the valuation. We have the liquidity. Make the arrangement. I want the paperwork signed and digital copies in my inbox before I enter that dinner at 7:00. Kira stared at me for a second. Then a slow grin spread across her face. She typed furiously on her phone. I'm on it. I sat back down in my leather chair. My heart was pounding, yet not from fear. It was the adrenaline of the hunt. My father had spent my entire existence telling me I was worthless. He had spent my entire existence making me feel small. Tonight, when I entered that country club, I wouldn't be small. I would be the largest thing in the chamber. I would effectively own him. I wasn't doing this for revenge, I told myself. I was doing it for clarity. I needed to demonstrate to him once and for all that the daughter he ignored was the sole one capable of standing tall. I looked at the clock. 4:15. I had less than 3 hours to acquire an empire. The next 2 hours were a blur of high-stakes negotiation. I didn't leave my office. I had 2 phones operating at once. On one line, I had the vice president of Metropolitan Bank. On the other, I had my legal team. Miss Ashford, the banker said, his voice smooth yet surprised. This is highly irregular. Acquiring a distressed portfolio of this magnitude usually takes weeks of due diligence. I don't need due diligence, I said, my voice crisp. I know the assets. I grew up in them. I know the liabilities. I'm looking at your foreclosure notice right now. You're about to seize the properties, which means you'll have to deal with auctions, legal fees, and negative press. I am offering you a clean exit. I will remit the principal plus 5%. Cash wire today. There was silence on the line. Banks hate messy foreclosures. They love cash. Plus 5%, he asked. Plus 5%. Yet the transfer of the lien happens immediately. By 6:30, I want to be the legal holder of the mortgage on Ashford Tower and the 3 industrial complexes. Hold on, he said. I put him on mute. I turned to my lawyer. Sarah, what regarding the private loans? Titan Capital is tougher, Sarah said. They know your father is desperate. They're charging him 18% interest. They don't want to sell. Offer them the principal and a buyout fee, I said. Tell them if they don't accept it, I'll tie them up in litigation for 3 years regarding predatory lending practices. My father didn't read the fine print, yet I did. There are clauses in there that are borderline illegal. Sarah smiled. You're playing hardball. I learned from the man himself, I said. By 5:45, the arrangements were closing. The transmission machine was humming. Digital signatures were flying across the secure server. One by one, the notifications appeared on my screen. Transfer complete. Ashford Tower Mortgage. Transfer complete. Industrial Complex ABC. Transfer complete. Equipment lines. It was happening. I was spending millions of dollars, draining a significant portion of my liquid cash, yet I was securing control. At 6:15, Kira entered with a single thin Azure folder. It's done, she said. You own it all. Technically, as of 5 minutes ago, your father is 3 months behind on his payments to you. I took the folder. It felt heavy, even though it only held a few sheets of paper. This was it. This was the leverage. Thank you, Kira, I said. Go home. Get some rest. Good luck, she said. Give them hell. I went to the private bathroom attached to my office to change. I had brought a change of attire, knowing I wouldn't have time to return home. I removed my comfortable gray work blazer. I washed my face. I looked at myself in the mirror. I looked tired, yet my eyes were bright. They were fierce. I put on a black dress. It was simple, elegant, and sharp. High neck, long sleeves, fitted. It appeared like armor. I put on my diamond earrings, the ones I purchased for myself when I opened my 5th hotel. I applied crimson lipstick. I wasn't dressing for a family dinner. I was dressing for a funeral. The funeral of my childhood hopes. I departed the office and descended to the parking facility. My vehicle was waiting. A sleek black sedan. I entered and drove into the rainy Minneapolis night. The drive to the country club took 30 minutes. I knew every turn. This was the club where we spent every Sunday brunch growing up. This was where father played golf while mother consumed sparkling beverages and instructed me to remain still. This was where Garrett threw tantrums until the servers brought him extra frozen dessert. I arrived at the valet. The young man opened my door. Welcome to the club, ma'am, he said. I stepped out, the rain misting against my face. I clutched the azure folder against my chest. I ascended the grand staircase. The aroma of the place impacted me immediately. A mixture of aged wood polish, expensive fragrance, and stagnation. Nothing had transformed here in 20 years. It was a monument to the past. My phone buzzed. A text from Julian. I love you. You are the strongest person I know. Remember who you are. I inhaled deeply. I knew who I was. I wasn't Serafina the victim anymore. I wasn't the woman crying in the chapel vestibule. I was Serafina Ashford, CEO of Horizon Suites. I walked toward the private dining chamber at the rear of the hall. I could hear their voices before I even opened the door. My father's booming, agitated voice. Where is she? It's 7:05. She's late, disrespectful. My mother's soothing, nervous tone. She'll arrive, Theodore. Traffic is severe. Garrett's scoff. She's probably doing it deliberately, attempting to make an entrance. She thinks she's special now merely because she got lucky with some hotels. I stopped. I positioned my hand on the brass door handle. Lucky. I labored 18-hour days. I scrubbed facilities. I risked everything, and he called it luck. That single word hardened my heart into diamond. I turned the handle and pushed the door open. The chamber was exactly as I remembered. Dark wood paneling, a crystal chandelier that was slightly too large, and an elongated table set with white linen. They were seated at the far end. My father, Theodore, sat at the head of the table. He appeared older than the last time I witnessed him. His face was redder, his hair thinner. He wore a suit that appeared expensive yet fit him poorly, as if he had lost weight from stress. My mother, Marguerite, sat to his right. She appeared frail. She was consuming a glass of white wine, her hand trembling slightly. Garrett sat to his left. He was leaning back in his chair, scrolling on his phone. He appeared soft. He possessed the face of a man who had never heard the word no. When I entered, the conversation ceased. "You're late," my father stated. No greeting, no standing to acknowledge me. Simply an accusation. "Traffic," I stated simply. I didn't apologize. I walked to the empty chair at the other end of the table, the foot of the table opposite him. I sat down. I positioned the azure folder on the table in front of me, face down. "Well," Mother said, her voice high and tight. "You look wonderful, Serafina. That dress is very elegant." "Thanks, Mother," I said. "We heard the news," Garrett said, not looking up from his phone. $580 million. That's insane. Who did you bribe to obtain that valuation?" "Hard work, Garrett," I said coolly. "You should attempt it sometime." He scoffed and finally looked at me. His eyes were envious. Pure, unadulterated envy. "Relax." I was joking. "Don't get a big head." "Let's order," Father grunted. "I'm starving." The server came. We ordered in awkward tension. Father ordered steak. Rare. Mother ordered a salad. Garrett ordered the most expensive lobster dish on the menu. "I'll merely have sparkling water," I said. "You're not eating?" Mother asked. "I'm not staying long," I replied. Father positioned his menu down. He stared at me across the centerpiece of dying flowers. "Right. Let's get to business. We're family, so I'm going to be direct with you, Serafina." "Please do," I said. "The market has been difficult," he began. He used his boardroom voice, the one he used to manipulate investors. "We've had some cash flow issues, temporary naturally. Merely a liquidity pinch. I need a bridge loan." "A bridge loan?" I repeated. "Yes. Merely to clear up some short-term obligations. To keep the vultures off our back." "How much?" I inquired. He hesitated. He looked at Garrett, then back at me. $15 million. We can structure it as a personal loan. I'll remit you back with interest in 2 years. $15 million, I said. "And what will you use it for?" "Operating costs." He waved his hand dismissively. "Payroll, vendors, the usual." "And to remit for the Ferrari?" I inquired, looking at Garrett. Garrett froze. Father frowned. "What?" "The corporate lease on the Ferrari," I said. "And the private jet to Cancun and the Miami suite. Is my $15 million going to remit for that as well?" Father's face turned a darker shade of red. "That is company business. Garrett meets with clients. Garrett parties," I said. "And you remit for it." "Watch your mouth," Father snapped. He slammed his hand on the table. "I am your father. You will demonstrate me respect. I constructed this family. I constructed the roof over your head." "You constructed a roof," I said calmly. "Yet you never made it a home." "Stop it," Mother cried. "Please don't fight. Serafina, please. Your father is under so much stress. Can't you help us? You possess so much now. We're family." "Family?" I said. I looked at the empty chair next to me. Where was family when I was 12 and won the science fair? Where was family when I was constructing my first hotel and sleeping on the floor? Where was family on my wedding day? Silence. The chamber went dead silent. That was an error. Father muttered. I told you I had a meeting. You lied, I said. There was no meeting. I investigated your calendar, Father. I know people. You were golfing. You skipped my wedding to play 18 holes. He didn't deny it. He merely glared at me. So you're going to maintain a grudge forever. You're going to let my company collapse. Let my legacy perish because your feelings are wounded. I'm not going to let it perish, I said. I positioned my hand on the Azure folder. Good, Father said, exhaling. He thought he had prevailed. He thought he had bullied me into submission. I'll have the lawyers draft the loan agreement tomorrow. No need, I said. I slid the Azure folder across the long table. It spun and stopped right in front of his steak knife. What is this? He inquired. Open it. He opened the folder. He adjusted his glasses. He read the first page. His face went pale. All the color drained out of him. His hands started to shake. What? What is this? He whispered. I acquired your debt, I said. My voice was steady, clear, and projected to the back of the chamber. I acquired the mortgage on Ashford Tower. I acquired the loans on the industrial complexes. I acquired the liens on the equipment. As of 6 o'clock this evening, I am the sole creditor of Ashford Holdings. Garrett grabbed the paper from Father's hand. What does that mean? It means, I said, that you don't owe the bank anymore. You owe me. Father looked up at me. There was fear in his eyes. Genuine fear. Serafina, why? Because you were going to lose it all, I said. The bank was foreclosing tomorrow. You didn't tell Mother that, did you? Mother gasped. Theodore. I rescued the company, I continued. Yet I'm not a silent partner, and I'm not a charity. I stood up. I felt 10 feet tall. Here are the terms, I said. Effective immediately, Garrett is terminated. He is removed from the board and stripped of all company credit cards. You can't do that, Garrett shouted, standing up. Father? Tell her. Father didn't speak. He was reading the document. He knew I possessed the legal right. I held the mortgage. I could foreclose at any second. Secondly, I said, Father, you are stepping down as CEO. You will transition to Chairman Emeritus. You will possess no voting power. I am appointing a new management team to restructure the debt and salvage the business. You're taking my company, Father choked out. My company? I'm rescuing the assets, I said. The company you constructed is already deceased. You eliminated it with your ego. I won't sign, he spat. I'll fight you. Read the last page, I said. If you don't agree to these terms, I foreclose immediately. The locks will be changed by morning. You will lose everything. The house, the vehicles, the reputation. You will be bankrupt. He looked at the paper. He looked at me. He looked at Garrett. He realized he was checkmated. You ungrateful, he sputtered. He stood up, shaking with rage. I gave you life. I raised you. You raised a ghost, I said. You raised someone you thought didn't matter. And now that ghost owns you. You are no daughter of mine, he hissed. The words were venomous. They were meant to destroy. I have no daughter. Get out. I looked at him. Really looked at him. A sad, angry, failing, aged man. I know, I said softly. I haven't been your daughter for a long time. I'm merely the landlord now. I turned to my mother. She was weeping silently. I'm sorry, Mother. I'll ensure you possess a stipend. You won't lose the house. Yet the spending ceases. I turned back to the door. Serafina? Garrett yelled. You can't do this to family. I opened the door. I looked back one final time. Family, I said, is the people who demonstrate up. You individuals never did. I departed. I closed the door on their shouting. I walked down the hall, past the stunned servers, and out into the night atmosphere. I departed the country club and the rain had ceased. The atmosphere smelled fresh, like wet pine and ocean salt. I entered my vehicle and merely sat there for a moment. My hands were shaking, not from fear, yet from the release of adrenaline. I inhaled deeply, filling my lungs completely. I waited for the guilt. I had been conditioned my whole existence to experience guilt whenever I displeased my father. I waited for that crushing weight to settle on my chest. Yet it didn't arrive. Instead, I felt lighter. I felt like I had been carrying a backpack full of stones for 30 years, and I had finally set it down. I started the vehicle and drove home. When I entered our apartment, Julian was waiting for me. He didn't inquire how it went. He merely looked at my face, witnessed the peace in my eyes, and embraced me. We ordered pizza and watched a comedy film. I didn't check my phone once. The next morning, the fallout commenced. My phone was flooded. 20 missed calls from Mother. 12 angry text messages from Garrett. "You're a monster. You ruined everything. How do you sleep at night?" I didn't reply. I simply blocked Garrett's number. I transmitted a text to Mother. "I love you, yet I will not discuss business with you. If you want to witness me as your daughter, we can obtain coffee next week. If you want to be a messenger for Father, don't attend." She didn't reply. The legal transition was swift. My team moved in. They terminated Garrett formally the next day. Security escorted him out of the building. I heard he threw a stapler at a wall. Father signed the papers. He possessed no choice. He retired to his study at home, refusing to speak to anyone. He became a recluse, brooding over his lost empire. I didn't take joy in their pain. I didn't gloat. In fact, I never set foot in Ashford Tower. I permitted my management team to manage it. I didn't want his office. I didn't want his chair. I possessed my own. Over the next 6 months, I commenced to transform his properties. The industrial complexes were failing, so I repurposed them. I turned one into a community art space and affordable housing for artists. I turned another into a logistics center for sustainable energy companies. I took the profits from the restructured company and initiated a scholarship fund for women in STEM. Women like I was, who possessed substantial dreams yet no support. I turned the pain into purpose. One afternoon, approximately 8 months later, I was visiting one of my new hotels, a retreat center in the mountains. It was beautiful, peaceful, quiet, surrounded by trees. I witnessed a woman checking in. She appeared approximately my age. She was with her parents. They were embracing her, laughing, carrying her bags. The father kissed her forehead and said, "We're so proud of you, sweetheart." I observed them, and for a split second, I experienced that aged phantom ache. That why not me feeling. Yet then Julian walked up beside me. He slipped his hand into mine. "You okay?" he inquired. I squeezed his hand. "Yeah, I am." I realized that I couldn't transform the past. I couldn't rewrite my childhood. My father was never going to be the man I wanted him to be. My mother was never going to be strong enough to select me over him. Garrett was never going to be a brother. And that was acceptable because I had broken the cycle. I wasn't bitter. Bitterness is consuming poison and expecting the other person to perish. I had expelled the poison out. I had rescued their financial existences, not because I owed them, yet because I was superior to them. I demonstrated them mercy when they had solely demonstrated me disdain. That was my victory. I departed from the lobby, leading Julian toward the garden we had planted together. "Did you hear?" Julian said. "Your brother obtained employment, selling automobiles at a used lot in Bloomington." I smiled. "Good for him. Honest work constructs character." "And your father?" "Still silent," I said. Silence used to wound me. Now it merely feels like peace. I stand in the sunlit lobby of Summit Peaks, my newest and most beautiful hotel. The walls are glass looking out over the mountains. The light pours in, warm and golden. I am 32 years old. I own a company worth over $500 million. I possess a husband who adores me. I possess an existence that is full, rich, and entirely my own. I look at the camera, at you. There is mythology that family is everything, that you must remain by them regardless of how much they wound you, that blood is thicker than water. Yet I'm here to tell you, that's not true. Blood is merely biology. Family is behavior. If your family makes you feel small, if they make you feel invisible, If they solely call you when they need something, that is not affection. That is manipulation. You do not owe them your soul merely because they gave you their DNA. It took me an extended time to learn that. I spent years waiting for an apology that never arrived. I spent years attempting to acquire their affection with my achievements. Yet you cannot acquire what isn't for sale, and you cannot fill a vessel that possesses a hole in the bottom. The moment I ceased attempting to please them was the moment I started to fly. I forgave them, not for them, yet for me. I forgave them so I wouldn't carry the anger anymore. I forgave them, and then I advanced forward. I constructed my own table. I invited people who loved me for who I was, not for what I could provide them. I looked down at my phone. The screen is clear. No frantic texts, no demands, merely a photograph of me and Julian smiling on a beach. I positioned the phone in my pocket. I turned back to the window, observing the sun set over the empire I constructed with my own 2 hands. If you are listening to this, and you experience invisibility in your own home, if you are the extra child, if you are the one they underestimate, hear me. You are strong, you are capable, and you are not alone. Don't wait for them to give you permission to be magnificent. They never will. Take that pain, take that rejection, and use it as fuel. Construct your own castle. And when you're standing at the top, remember who got you there. You did. Thank you for listening to my story. It wasn't easy to tell, yet it was necessary. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to select your own peace over your family's drama, please engage with this content. Subscribe to the channel for more stories of truth and resilience. And in the comments below, tell me, have you ever had to depart to rescue yourself? I want to hear your story. I'm Serafina, and I'll witness you in the next one.